Hi, Joe Cerrone with our weekly Zoom meeting for CAD 230 Introduction to SolidWorks. I put the meeting on today at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. because I made a schedule change. And it looks to me like we can kind of work this for another week and see how that works. What I did today was to start the meeting at 6 and then to make it more of a classroom style question and answer component where I go through the textbook. And at the 8 p.m. meeting today, I'm going to do our 10-minute brief, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So I do have some people that are attending a couple of times, which is great. No problem. So as we look at what we're working on here, we're working on module 1. And so here's our module 1 announcement. And you're to complete labs 1A, 1B, and 1C. Lab 1A is shown here, 1B is shown here, and 1C is shown here. And then once you have those labs completed, you're to take the quizzes in the exam you're to take the quizzes/exam. It's basically a quiz. It's located right here for module 1, and you'll have multiple choice questions and volume questions. And then there are video tutorials under content. So the course is set up as asynchronous, meaning that attendance is not required, but I do like to teach and I do like to make sure that I connect with students. And so it's no problem. We go through and I'm used to teaching all day. So module 1, as we look at what's required, we can go here to content. And then we can look at module 1. Here's our learning objectives, chapter by chapter. Here's the textbook, chapters as PDF. If you have not gotten the textbook yet, you can download that and you'll get something that looks like this. And then this is where the instructions are for how to do my module or lab 1A, 1B, 1C. Back to D2L, module 1. And so as we go through and we progress through the course, we're going to start to create these drawings. And I'll cut right to the chase. When we go through and you need to know what to do, what we want to do is we want to do these 3 labs, do the multiple choice quiz, and do the volume quiz. And that's it. Okay, we turn those in. You don't have to watch all the videos. The videos are there for helping you learn SolidWorks. But if you're able to get through the curriculum and maybe you have a little bit of experience, then you might want to just find the quickest way to get them done. But we have the videos for all of the modules so that you have those support resources. And so if we look at lab 1A, here it is. It basically follows the textbook. Goes through how to create a sketch, how to work with sketches and sketch geometry, being able to draw the first lab, and then being able to add relations, continue to add relations. And so the video learning I find is really quite helpful because it shows you how to correct your errors. And you can watch the videos that we created to develop the instructor resources or the student resources. And so Sebastian did these last year, and they're still good because they follow the format for the textbook. Back to module 1A. And then there's a second video for that same lab that shows you how to complete it. And then lab 1B. Again, videos are there for your support. You can just follow the textbook, but I find reading how to do drawing assignments is more visual. And I really like making videos. And Sebastian did these, so I didn't see a point to do redundant videos. But if you go on YouTube and you look for Oakton CAD, you'll find I've got quite a few of them out there. So these videos will go through and they'll show you how to use things like the Whole Wizard. Whole Wizard is a great tool. And I'll be happy after I run the main Zoom meeting to explain how those things work if you stay after our 10-minute weekly briefing. Going back to module 1. And then our third lab. And if we take a look at the third lab, there are videos for lab 1C here. So we go through and we draw the geometry. We learn how to use sketch tools and features. Once you have completed the lab,
you can always go undo as well if there's some mistakes you have made that you want to undo.
I'll turn off Sebastian's voice. And so that's lab 1C. And I like to have video instructions for it. So those labs are due as it's displayed in the calendar on the 23rd of June. I will also put in the announcements module 2 after our Zoom meeting today, and then I'll make that due date in the assignments folder, and I'll put that out 2 weeks from today. And so module 2 will be due on the 30th. And so as you start getting used to it, I start relatively slow because I don't want to go too fast in the beginning, because if we don't get things running properly in the beginning, then it's much harder to explain things farther down the line. But you are welcome to go through the modules at your own pace. If you go to the content section, we're just going module by module, which map chapter to chapter. And so module 2 goes through the chapters 4 of the textbook. Lab 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D, which is bonus because the summer courses is a shortened schedule. And so there are videos, there are instructions to it, but I'm not going to require this lab because it would be too much work. Lab 2A video. How to draw the object, create sketches, create features, work with relations. SolidWorks takes a little bit of time to start getting used to it. So as you do more of the labs, you will learn more of the commands. And as we go through and we look at these modules, what we try to do is to introduce the commands in a logical, sequential way that you don't have all of them at once needing to know everything all the time, because it is a complicated software. It's got a lot of features to it. So as we go through, the book maps to the chapters along with the assignments. And I'll typically bring these down to bonus as we go through, and I'll put them in the announcements. Once you have drawn the parts like I have, and I've got them all made. Here's part lab 1A. You can calculate out the volumes for the volume quiz by going to the Evaluate tab. And in the Evaluate tab, if you select the mass properties, and then what it does is it calculates out the mass properties for the part model that you've created. And so here's my volume. And so I've been given a volume, or it's calculated out this volume at 74.25. And then what we will do is we will go to our D2L, and under quizzes and exams, I'm going to change my view to a student view. Under quizzes and exams, here's the module 1, here's a multiple choice quiz and the volume quiz. And since I'm calculating the volume, I'll click on the volume quiz. And so essentially you need to submit this quiz. Now, since I'm in student view, I'm going to have to change this back over. Doesn't let me see it. Thought it would. Do it again. So the volume quiz looks like this. If I click on lab 1A, what is the volume of lab 1A? 86, 53, 74, 66. And I'm going to have to update these because I did put an update this last semester because I should have the units on here. And so it should say the units. And so if I click back to this one, it's going to tell you that the volume is in cubic inches, 74.25. And so when I updated the course last semester, I added cubic inches. So the correct answer would be this one that is the closest. And I think I added the volume is closest to that. And then same thing for the other lab questions where it's going to ask you, what is the volume of the part for lab 1B? And you'll calculate that. So if I come back here to the lab 1B, and I have to get out of that, I think. Let's try it again. There we go. And so if we look at this part again, I can go to the Evaluate tab, I can go to Mass Properties, and then I can calculate out the volume for that. And then if I go and I take a look at my quiz, I'll update these as in the next quiz. And so since the quiz is already active and some people have already taken it, I can't change it. But it's a minor thing. And so again, you know, this one is closest here, I believe. So that would be the proper answer. And you'll be graded on that. And so do the quizzes as you work through the modules. And then if we come back here to our main splash page, you'll do the quizzes. And then once you've done the quizzes, those quiz scores will be posted in the grades. And grades are not really set up yet. So as far as that goes, when you submit your files, they'll go here into the assignments file. I often call it the Dropbox because it used to be called that. And this will give me the ability to give you feedback for the course. If I view this as a student and I go to assignments, I can see that I have a submission for it. And here's how the grading criteria will be set for Lab 1A, setup and configuration, proper file name, proper units, correct initial plane, sketching, geometry is accurate, fully constrained or fully defined, high degree of effectiveness, and then in general. And so typically students do really quite well on the lab components of it. Tests and quizzes tend to be a little bit harder because you're taking a reading application or a verbal, and it's just a little bit different, you know, the way people think. So I'm a very hands-on person. I've liked working in this field for quite some time, and that's how the course is set up. So with that, what is due next week is Module 1, Lab 1A, 1B, and 1C. I will go in and release Module 2, which will be due in 2 weeks. And then Module 2 will be these components where we will create this component and we will create this component here. It's a pin. And then there's a secondary pin. And then there's a third piece of geometry that attaches to it. Perhaps not. But as we go through later in the textbook, they show you how to take these components and to put them into an assembly. So if you take the textbook and you start reading through it, if you haven't gotten the textbook yet, send me an email and I can assist you with it. There are instructions on how to get the book under the content area. And then if you look at the class overview and procedures, I believe it's here. Yeah, here it is. Here's the textbook. I don't think you get all the chapters with the free temporary, but if you click on this link, it will take you to the publisher. If you are receiving financial assistance, they want you to buy the book through the bookstore. So contact the bookstore if you need to use a voucher or anything like that. But they tend to charge a little bit more. If you hunt around, you can find the books online for less. And so if you purchase that, you can purchase it with these purchase options. And if you like electronic books, you can choose one of these 4 vendors. If you like printed books, you can choose these vendors. It's up to you. It's how it's done, you know, for teaching the course. Back to the main splash page. So last week we went through policy and procedures. Module 1 is due next week. You're to complete lab 1A, 1B, 1C. There are videos for those labs, and then you're to take the module multiple choice quiz as well as the volume quiz. If I take a quick peek at the multiple choice quiz, since I'm viewing it as a student, I won't be able to show you, but if I bail out of it, and then I go back here and I look at the multiple choice quiz, it's basically questions on SolidWorks from the textbook. How do you get to the general options? To get to the general options, you can be in your part, and then you can go to this part right here, options. And then here's the system options from the first 2 chapters. We explain those. And so if you look at the question again, and we expand it, tools, general options, insert type of options. And so it's under tools, options. And so as we look at that in our questions, you can use your computer, you can, you know, use your notes. And that's the way it's done on the job. When you get a job as a design engineer, sure, you can ask your coworkers, but you get to a point where they expect you to be somewhat independent, and being able to find the information in today's day and age, you need to be able to go through and kind of explore the interface to be able to do that. And so you can use the computer while you take the quiz, and you can see how that is working. So if we go to tools, and then I think it was under options, we can properly answer that question. Okay, so back to the main splash page, and I'm a little over my time, so I'm going to wrap this up. Back to the main splash page. Module 1 is due next week, and I will post module 2 in tonight's, after tonight's Zoom meeting. Module 2 covers the content shown in module 2. Module 2, you will draw lab 2A, 2B, and 2C. It maps to chapter 4 of the textbook. If you have not gotten the textbook yet, we have some of the chapters here under SolidWorks textbook. And then you can download chapter 4 while you're waiting for your book to arrive. And then if we open it, this goes through, and what I do at the meetings is I explain the learning objectives and the standard operating procedures for the course. And so we follow the book. Upon successful completion of this lesson, we will learn how to sketch on planar surfaces, add dimensions, add geometric restraints, use boss, base, extrude, cut, revolve features. So we just continue to add to our knowledge of commands. And then the way the book works is they'll go through view orientation, unit setup. Be sure to make sure that you use the proper units. If you use metric, it can be a problem. When we go through and we start a new drawing, we have to go to File, New, Part, OK. And then we can set up the units, inches, millimeters, and some of these other type of units. Back to our announcements. And then we just follow through the book, create these sketches. Reading how to draw is a little bit difficult, so we make a video for everything, or at least we try to. And so as you go through and we look at the module 2 information, we can take a look here, and then I can look at module 2. And then here's our lab 2A. No reason for me to do all of it every week. It's like watching a rerun. So I'll make that in our short announcement, and I'll post that information.
But looking at this PDF, it looks like we're pretty much stuck in.
Sorry, I didn't know that was from the video. So it goes through and it shows you how to do that for all the labs in there. And then again, we will do the same where you will take a quiz and a volume quiz. Okay, with that, that wraps up our 10-minute, which I think went to 20-minute weekly Zoom meeting. I will post that in the announcements, and I will then open things up for questions